How many of you guys have been to one of these talks before? Okay, I do recognize a few of you. So for those who've been here before, so this can get into a very technical discussion. I'm telling you that that is not me. While we have a master's in computer science, I stopped coding about 20 years ago. So I have a lot of people smarter than me who's actually writing the code for CorkVision. But I will tell you what I am doing for it. So as Chris mentioned, I had a startup called Appster Technologies back in New York City, where I'm from. We sold that company in 2020, and during that time, I had taken an opportunity to move to Napa. I knew I wanted to become involved in the wine industry. I just didn't know how I would be become involved in it, and I didn't know anything about making wine. The only thing that I knew is how to drink it. So I started to work at Harvest at North Mead State, California. Saw firsthand exactly how wine is made. I still don't know how to make wine, but I did see some of the challenges that the wine industry faces. And so the last 2 years, I've taken the time to talk to over 150 wineries to really understand what their problems are, what their key points are, and what are some of the roadblocks that they face. And so I started thinking about building a platform and using the skills that kind of I learned in New York to design and build a platform that will solve a number of these challenges. So hopefully it'll solve all of them, but we'll see how it goes. So that is Corky. I will talk about Corky, who Corky is. But Corky is my AI agent, and he is who, though he or she actually, I haven't quite gendered Corky yet. He or she hasn't told me what they want to be. But possibly, if you guys remember the old paperclip from Microsoft Word way back in the day, that's kind of my inspiration for Corky, except Corky will be much more helpful than Clippy. So a friend of mine actually asked me recently, when I was building this platform, he said, how are you selling AI to the wine industry when it's very tradition focused, and traditionally it's been a hard sell to sell technology in the wine industry? And I thought about that question, and really, he's right. If the wine industry is an agricultural industry. Oh, by the way, how many people here are in the wine industry? One. Okay. I'm going to be information. Please don't say. No, but the wine industry, for those who are new there, it's very traditional. As I mentioned, it's winemaking has been handed down generation to generation, and as a result, people tend to fall back into what they know and what they're taught. And that's the wine industry is an agricultural industry. So my target market are the small to medium-sized wineries. Wineries make under 50,000 cases of wine a year. There are about 11,604 wineries in the United States. 97% of them make under 50,000 cases, which is my target market. And the reason why I'm targeting those wineries is that not only are near and dear to my heart, I have a lot of friends who own those wineries, make wine at those wineries, but they also run lean operations and small teams. And coming from a startup world, when I had in New York, that's very close to me, because at a startup, you tend to run lean operations and people tend to wear multiple hats in both organizations. So I relate directly to those wineries. And so oftentimes you'll find that the winemaker is also the sales manager, is also the hospitality manager. The person who runs marketing is the person who has an Instagram account, or maybe the youngest person in the team. So nobody's really trained in how to analyze data or how to properly look at their sales data to understand insights around them. AI is obviously the newest technology that's up there. It's very easy to use, especially if you're using ChatGPT. But the challenge with wineries is we don't know how to use it. It's kind of like the opposite problem that people going into wines have. Wineries, I was talking to Silas over there, where it said, I'm sorry, not Silas, so somebody else, and it said, oh yes, where for somebody who's not really intimidating to go into wine and figure out where you should go and what you should try. Wineries have that same problem with technology. Even though AI is designed to be simple to use, they don't know how to start, and they don't know where to start. And also, a lot of challenges with the wine industry involve a couple of different things. One, they have a fragmented tech stack. So there are different platforms that do, sorry, you hear, but there are little platforms that, there are individual platforms that do certain things, and they're not all integrated together. So that also leads to the second problem the wineries have, which is that there are deep data silos. So in order for somebody to check status of an order. For example, if I ordered from Christy's Winery, I'd say, Christy, what's the status of the order? So there are 2 to 4 different platforms that Christy could look at in order to find the status of the order, and then write me an email giving that information. That takes time. And as we talked about, wineries run lean operations and small teams. So every little bit helps in terms of automation and efficiency. And also, as I mentioned, wineries are traditional. They know what they know. They're farmers. They don't really work with technology or know technology. So a lot of the platforms that they use, they don't use it to their fullest extent. And there are a lot of reporting available in the platforms that they use, but they don't know what to do with those reports. They don't need another dashboard. So what did I build? More dashboards. No, kidding. But actually, so what I started to think about CorkVision, I didn't start looking at technology. I started looking at the problems that the wine industry is facing. Some things like how to check order stats. How do you know what your sales were in 2024? How do you know what your top selling products were? How do you know where they sold best? How do you know how your marketing campaigns did? I started asking these questions to different wineries, and I started hearing what they had to say. And a lot of them said, I don't know. A lot of them said, well, I can look at this platform, or I can pull this Excel spreadsheet from this platform, compare it to this other Excel spreadsheet that I have from this other platform, and then put that together and figure out the information I'm looking for. But I don't have time to do that. So I started thinking about these challenges and these problems, and I started asking, what do people do on a day-to-day basis? How can they make that more efficient? How can they make that faster? What we didn't talk about is the underlying technology, the power stack. And I think that's what's key to adoption in the wine industry. Not really talking about technology, but rather talking about how you're solving real-world problems for them. And I think that's a lesson that can be taken across all industries, not just the wine industry. And as I mentioned, I talked to over 150 wineries, 150 people rather, across different wineries to understand these problems and understand these pain points. I also held roundtables at my house where I hosted people from different wineries to talk to them and see how they work. Because wineries, even though they all sell wine to people, every single winery works differently. It's very interesting. There are some wineries that focus on direct consumer sales, wineries that focus on retail sales and distribution. But even then, within the direct consumer wineries, they sell wine differently themselves. So some wineries sell if you walk into the doors. That's okay. Some wineries sell based on a mailing list. Some wineries sell on an allocation basis, which means you have to be invited to buy their wine. So there's no one size fits all for wineries. But what I understood from what everyone was telling me is that the technology that exists today doesn't fully meet their needs. And a large part of that is because they don't really know how to use technology. And also, a lot of these platforms weren't designed with the small to medium-sized wineries in mind. They were designed with the larger wineries. Wineries that are owned by conglomerates, the wineries that you see available at Target, at Safeway, at a supermarket that makes millions of cases of wine a year. That's only 3% of the wineries in the US. So that's when I decided to really focus on small to medium-sized wineries. And as I mentioned before, these platforms do give reporting capabilities. They give you graphs, they give you charts, but it's still up to the winery to understand what that's telling you and what those charts mean. And that's where AI can come in as well. So I see AI not only as a way to help people with automation and efficiency, but also give insights into what the data you're collecting is actually telling you. And so how did we design CorkVision? Well, I know I said we weren't going to do dashboards. Actually, I didn't say we weren't going to do dashboards. I said wineries don't need another dashboard. But I am giving wineries the ability to create dashboards and also be able to use dashboards to help them basically prove that their insights are correct. So Corky, as I mentioned, is our AI agent. Corky is always going to be available on the lower right side of the screen. We are web and mobile friendly. This is not an app for CorkVision, actually. I know most of you guys are not in the wine industry. I'm just telling you how CorkVision works and how we designed it. Because what I was really trying to do here was make it as easy, as intuitive as possible for an industry that's not technologically adapt to CorkVision. So the way I've designed the platform is that we will have these dashboards available we'll also have data that's available to them, the wineries, so they can see, for example, sales this week, orders this week, what is the average order value for your clients this week. But they'll also be able to talk to Corky, and I'll show that in a second. But Corky will be giving insights as to what the data is telling them. So I'll give you some examples of those, but effectively what we're looking to do is, instead of the wineries using the platforms they use today, which they will continue to do that, they will interface with CorkVision and Corky to interact with those platforms through natural language. So instead of pulling in reports, like going into reporting, dashboards, sales, and picking in the dashboard, you can just say, hey, Corky, show me my sales for this week. What were my top selling products? The reason why I chose to do it that way is because, as I mentioned, wineries, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for them to adopt. And if you notice that, obviously you guys know that this is AI driven because we're in an AI meetup and we're talking, as I mentioned, we're talking about AIs. But for a winery, they don't care. They don't care that the underlying technology is AI. What they care about is how it's going to help me sell better. How it's going to help me service my clients, my hospitality guests better. And so that's what we're trying to do. And so, we do have these dashboards, and you can click into them and you can see exactly what's driving those sales. Our strength is Corky. You'll be able to ask Corky everyday questions, like I mentioned, what were my sales this week? What products sold best? But also ask it those cycle questions like, hey, notice my sales rate decreased this week. How is that affecting me? Or what can I do to improve that? And we'll be leveraging AI in order to help understand why those sales are declining and what we can do to help increase those sales. We're giving data, but we're also giving actionable insights to that data, which is the challenge that wineries have today. And also, one of the things that we're trying to do is, again, we're trying to solve for real world problems here. So one of the examples that we're using AI, how we're using AI is we're using AI in order to collect data on their customers and understand the connection between those customers. So, for example, I bring a lot of friends to Napa. I'm originally from New York, as I mentioned. So I have a lot of friends from New York come visit me in Napa. Some of those friends are able to take advantage of my relationship with wineries because the winery know I'm connected to them. How do they know that? Because I tell them. But what if the person that I knew at that winery left? Or what if I don't have kids as far as I'm aware of? But if I did, what if I go to a winery and say, hey, and then my kid decides to, who's 21, goes to the winery, and how do they know that they're related to me? Today, they don't. But with AI and with some of the technology we're building, we're able to understand people's relationships, so we can relate people to the main customer profile. So, for example, a lot of wineries offer wine club benefits to members of their family. How do you know they're a member of the family? Again, the person has to tell you, and somebody at the winery has to know that this person is related to the wine club member and give them the benefits. That doesn't happen all the time with wineries. But with what we're building, we're able to recognize that this person is a family member of your wine club member, and we can connect those accounts. So if that family member is coming into the winery, or people will say, hey, by the way, John's son is coming to the winery. He should get the wine club member benefits. We're able to do that. And that will be some of the problems that we're solving. Again, we're using AI to understand those relationships, but what we're really using it for is to help wineries become more personalized to their clients and be able to build a better connection with them and hopefully sell more wine. That's our main goal. And sorry, I have to stop second because he's my favorite character to pick on, RIP Bomb. And so how are we doing this? So I'm not going to get too technical because that is not me. There's a lot of people working on my team who's a lot smarter than I am. But what we've built is effectively a data lake. And for those who are technical people, which is most of the room, I think, we use the data first concept of medallions. And so we have bronze, silver, and gold And what we are doing is we're ingesting data from different platforms that wineries use in our bonds layer, and we're ingesting it as is without any transformation or anything else or anything. We're just ingesting the data. And then in our silver layer, that's when we're doing our transformations, our normalization, and then that's where we're actually doing a lot of the analysis, a lot of the AI that we're talking about, a lot of the data that the AIs we're using. It's coming from our silver data, and then it's fed into our gold layer, excuse me. And that layer is where all of our insights are being surfaced to wineries. So what we're doing things like connecting people to main accounts if they're family members or if they're somewhat related. One of the things we're also doing is helping wineries understand which wine club members are closely churning. Because for those who are not familiar, wineries make 48% of their revenue through wine clubs. When you sign up for a winery in a wine club, you don't have to commit to a certain period of time in which you're a wine club member. You can literally sign up today, cancel tomorrow. Obviously, that's not what wineries want, and there's no real point in doing that. But the point is, there's no commitment for a member to maintain a long-term relationship with the wine club. It's up to the winery to make sure that that member stays loyal and remains committed. So wineries want to understand which customers are potentially going to churn so they can take proactive action into preventing them from churning, whether that's sending a special offer, inviting them to a special tasting, or doing something else. Today, there are certain platforms that do wine club churn prediction. The problem with that is they only look at a certain subset of data for that consumer. They look at recency, frequency, and monetary value, RFM. For those not aware, that means when did you last contact the winery? How often have you interacted with the winery, whether it's through email or through visitation, and how much money have you spent with them? Those are just 3 factors, but there's so much more that determines whether or not a customer is churning. And that's what we're ingesting. And that's what we're building basically a machine learning model that takes in all of these different inputs, including some sentiment analysis to understand what the person is thinking, and then predict a potential churn with more accuracy. So that all of those insights are going to be surfaced in our gold layer, and also insights like club drop detection, reorder methods. So we'll be able to understand things like a certain winery's vintage is running low on inventory. Why don't we identify those customers who purchased that wine before, create a custom marketing segment for those customers, and send them an email saying, hey, you purchased this wine last year, we're running low on inventory, you'd like to buy some more. These are all things that are powered by AI that a winery has no idea is powered by AI. What they see is an opportunity to sell more wine and to reach customers in a deeper, more personalized level. And that's what we're building. So in closing, what I was saying is like, what if AI isn't just a co-pilot, but it's actually a better teammate? Somebody who isn't just giving you data or making things more automated and more efficient, but somebody who's actually giving you insights that will help you and your business perform better. And that's what we're building it for. But
we're very first event. So
yeah, yeah.
thank you for this.
Oh, we're starting.
I'm going to go back there.
Please. Oh, yes.
Go ahead, Michael.
Just one.
Listen. I'm just wondering what resistance you might have this year.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So one is cost, obviously. For those who are not aware, the wine industry is going through some challenges and some headwinds right now. So they don't want to add another layer of cost because I'm not replacing their platforms. I'm adding a cost to them. However, one of the ways that I'm countering that, again, is I'm solving real world problems. I'm leading with the fact that I'm solving your challenges today, not introducing a new technology. And I'm also building tools within my platform that prove to wineries how much I've been able to save them, whether it's time or revenue. So in the wine club churn prediction example, I'm building tools in there that will allow Corky to say, hey, by the way, we predicted with 95% accuracy that 6 members of your wine club were potentially churning last month. We saved 5 of them with our insights and with your action. that gave you an additional X amount of dollars in revenue. That's how we're able to talk to wine. That's how we talk to wineries.
Like, the wines.
Website.
If I was studying a small example, which is a Winery, but for the household creation, but what are the listens to that? And just get a compliment to make you or like extra spring or scraping, you know.
There are external parameters that we are scraping. I don't want to see Yes, it's publicly available information that's on the internet. It is the contact info, but we're also understanding things like, do they have the same shipping address? Do they have the same billing address? Do they have the same last name? Do they have the same phone numbers? A big use case for us beyond family members is, so there are a lot of, I'm based out of Napa. There are very expensive wineries in Napa. So I'm sure you guys know. Those wineries handle a lot of athletes and celebrities. Those celebrities are on the mailing list. Those celebrities are not the ones who are answering opening their emails or answering the phone calls. It's their PA. Their PA changes frequently. How we connect those, we're able to do that through a series of inputs. I don't really want to get into too much detail. I don't want to reveal too much of our secret sauce, but yeah, we're taking both external sources of information as well as the information that we are ingesting from the platforms we integrate with.
It's very small.
I can tell you that. But that's it. Yeah.
We're done with questions.
Oh, wait, it's on one question. One more question.
Yeah.
Two more questions.
Right. So hopefully people don't know that to say but if I doubt, they might ask, I hear this stuff is saying it's like on the line. So how do I believe what's
Excellent question. And just to be clear, I'm not hiding the fact that I'm using AI for wineries. I mean, if you go to CorkVision.com, we say we're using AI. It's more about how we talking to wineries about what we're building. And to your point about trust, that is the one thing that I basically I'm trying to tell my team who are building the platform is that's something that we focus on. So we're building Corky to ask questions if Corky's not sure of the answer. If Corky doesn't know a response, we're training Corky to say, I don't know, or, let me ask you a few questions. Maybe I can figure it out from there. Or we can't eliminate hallucinations at this point, but what we're trying to do is minimize them. And we're trying to ground Corky in basis of truth, whether that's looking through data that we have, or just saying that I'm sorry, I can't answer your question. Because trust is the single most important thing that we can earn with wineries. And as soon as we lose that, then we lose our platform, we lose our clients. We're also measuring we're also measuring accuracy on our predictions. And that's going to require winery input to say, hey, we gave you this insight. How did that work out for you? And that will help us also fine tune any future insights that we generate.
well for your platform interface hack anyway, so I think you're good.
That's any
Vertically, right?
Yeah.
So my question is not agents and investment, and if you're doing anything in that space, because it feels like that is CPU situated or club members, people reaching out, to something like this other wine or this other wine's coming out, so you're also going through with friends of
Right.
the restaurant and do like steak or vegetables or whatever. It's a great compliment, things like that. So definitely fine, sir.
Yeah, totally. We're definitely building towards a fully agentic model where Corky can not only suggest what to do, but also take action on it. However, taking a quick step back, agentic AI, if you ask 10 people working in AI what agentic AI is, you can get 12 responses back. So my version of agentic AI is, can the agent do the task without human intervention? We're not quite there yet for at least what I'm building, but eventually my plan is to do that. So an example would be on the marketing side. We're going to be able to suggest things like, hey, that email that I mentioned earlier, when, your 2022 Chardonnay is running low, you'd like to generate an email. Corky won't send that email automatically. There will still be a human involved in reviewing that email and editing it, but eventually I would love for Corky to be able to automatically send that email and then report back to the winery and say, hey, by the way, we noticed this. We sent this email. This translated into this revenue. That's where I want to work towards. Thank you.
I see T1 hands up, but John could bring you around.
Yeah.
We can hang out afterwards and talk some more. So
Well, I see.
so thank you, John.
Thank you, guys.